Hey everyone, for this quest you're going to be creating a vector scene. You have a lot of opportunity to show your creativity and your imagination skills as you venture into something that is more your own. There's no specific task at hand here. All you're doing is showcasing the skills that you've acquired while using Adobe Illustrator. So you can see here on the page we have several different graphics here. All I did was go in and search vector scene, and this is kind of what we're looking at doing for this assignment, is going in and designing shapes to create a scene using Adobe Illustrator. So let's go ahead and open up Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to go to create a new file. When you go in, I believe I've discussed this before, but at the top here you can see that depending on what you're creating your Illustrator image for, you can decide what you want to do at the top here. Most of the time we're going to be looking at doing something on a web interface. So let's go ahead and click on web, and we'll go to large web and go ahead and create. So that's going to take the same dimensions as what I have on my computer screen right now. And at this point, now you're just going to go ahead and you're going to start planning and designing the vector scene that you would like to create. As many of you are aware, computers has dramatically changed the art industry, and they have become the primary resource for many of the cartoonists and illustrators in the creation of digital illustrations. Most of the comic book illustrations, cartoon television shows, and animated movies have made a complete shift away from the traditional pen and paper, and they have moved towards the computerized scenes for the rendering process. So with Adobe, you're going to be creating a digital scene using the skills and the knowledge that you've gained from previous tutorials, and you're going to be coming up with your own personalized rendition of a vector scene. So before you start, I just want to walk you through a few different techniques that might help you get started. So we've been using the pen tool. I've told you that you need to become very proficient with the pen tool, and that might be your starting point. Maybe you want to make something at the front of your photo using the pen tool. Remember that you always want to close your shapes. Then once you have your shape selected, you can pick the color. So I can go ahead and select the color. So that's going to be at my foreground. Now that I've created that, then maybe I want to make another section that's going to go behind it. So afterwards I can put some curves into this, and I can go from there. Okay, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to go all the way around, and again I'm going to connect it, and you can see here it's the same color as the other piece, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to gray it out. Now this is an issue. I can only see the one piece, but remember you're working in layers. So I'm going to take that path and I'm going to put it behind the other one, and we can now see our two layers. You guys have also seen, like if you're looking at your anchors, you know that you can remove your anchors or you can add anchors. Another tool that I haven't talked a lot about is the curvature tool, and you might want to use it in this assignment. Okay, if you click on the curvature tool, if you take a path, you can take it and you can bend it. Now keep in mind, every time you make one of those bends, you're adding another anchor, okay, onto your path. So sometimes that can get in the way of your object looking smooth, and that could be something that you have to work with. So now I have two images that I'm working with. Another thing to point out, remember when you have the select tool, picks the entire item, and if you go ahead and you use the direct selection tool, now you can work with specific points on your item. On the inside, you can see that we can change and we can round things out. So if you see that I'm rounding it out, maybe I don't want to round out the whole item. So if I just double click on that one specific spot, this window will come up. You can change it here, or I can just close that, and then I can just pull on that one item. So you can see it's only affecting that one curve. It's not affecting any of the other spots on this piece. Okay, if I go over to the other side, okay, I can go ahead and change it here, okay, or I can go ahead and change it on the actual image. So I got a front piece, and then I got a background behind it. Something that you're going to notice if you look at the illustrations that other people have made, as they're going through, you're going to start out with darker colors at the front, and then they actually fade out as you go to the back of the picture. So if we look at this one here, the trees in the foreground are quite dark, and then it just takes those greens and it lightens them as it goes into the back of the picture. That creates depth. And that's something that you're going to want to think about when you're making your assignment. I'm not going to create an entire image here because I don't want to waste all of your time. But I can go ahead and I'm going to create a background here. Oh, look at that. I didn't bring my project all the way over to the side, did I? I'm just going to zoom out so I can see everything I'm doing. So I have my background. Maybe for the background, I'm going to make some changes here. Possibly instead of using a regular color, I can go to the fill. And I'm going to go down to the library and go to a gradient. So in the gradients, we have all these different gradients that we could possibly go with. I'm going to go with something bright. So I pick a bright gradient, and at this point I can also go through and I have some other options. If we go directly to the fill, go down to gradient options, now you can see instead of the gradient going sideways, we can actually change the direction. So I can go ahead and change it so it's going from front to back. At the bottom here, we have the colors that the computer has selected. I can go ahead and I can even change some of the colors that are showing up. So I can go ahead and make some changes there. I'm going to close those up. Again, I got to move my layers around. I want to make sure that when I'm completed with this, that I actually have this layer and it is sitting at the back behind everything else. So you can see this layer here, it's a bit mangled. If we go back to it, I can take and I can double click on this one point. Maybe I just want to bring it over here. Bring this point over so it's covering the whole piece. Now remember, when we're working in Illustrator, I have some of this project is actually outside of the actual artboard. So if I click on the artboard, if I want to increase or decrease the size of the artboard, I can. But right now I'm not worried about having stuff going and extending out past the artboard because that's just going to get cut off when I go to save it. So I'm fine with that. So you can see here I got a foreground, and then I have some hills that are going to be starting in the back. Okay, and then I have my actual background. Okay, now you're going to have to go ahead and you're trying to create some depth here. You're going to go ahead and you're going to start creating and making images. When I'm working with images, okay, maybe I've made my background and that's going to be one layer. I'm going to go ahead and create another layer, and I'm going to call this, maybe I'll call this objects. It's really important that you give good titles to your illustrations as you're working, especially if they're large illustrations, because it can get confusing. So we have objects. I'm going to select that layer, and I'm not going to create anything, but I want to show you how you can work with different shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on a shape. I have the ellipse tool, so I'm going to create an ellipse. Let's just take this. I'm going to make it a crazy color just so you can see it. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another tool. So I got a polygon here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work with that polygon, and we're going to make it another color. Let's not make it another color. Let's keep it the same color, but I'm going to bring it over, and I just want to show you we have these two images, or these two shapes, and they're separate shapes. Maybe you want to make that one main shape. So if you take the Shift key, press down on it, select the other. Now you can go ahead and play around with a very cool tool. It's become much more popular, and it's been introduced and used a lot more in Illustrator in recent years. It's called the Shape Builder tool. So this is a really nice way of manipulating objects and combining and playing with different shapes, working with them together. So if you grab that item, we've already selected these. So you can see when I go over, you can see they're both selected. If I pull this line across both items, it's now taken and turned it into one shape, which is a really quick and easy way of changing shapes. At this point, it really still doesn't look like anything. Maybe at this point I want to take it and try to do some things with it, make it look like a cloud. I don't know. Okay, maybe I can make it look like a cloud. Not really. Okay, nice try. Okay, but you can see you have some potential on what you can do with it once you do have it selected. Oh, it's starting to look a little bit more like a cloud, isn't it? Maybe not. Okay, so you can see that's what you can do with shapes with the Shape Builder tool. That's one way of working with the Shape Builder tool. As you'll soon realize, there are multiple ways of working with shapes when you're in Illustrator. I'm going to show you another way that you could possibly do something here. So if you go up to the line tool, I'm going to go ahead and change the properties. I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker so you can see what I'm doing here. Go to the line tool, and I'm going to draw a line across the page. I'm going to hold shift to keep it nice and flat. So I have the line tool there, and I'm going to change the I'm going to change the color here again. Make it a little bit closer to what I want. So we have the line tool. I'm going to make it a little bit wider too so you can see it. Then I'm going to go back to the ellipse tool. I'm going to grab a circle, and when you're working with circles, or when you're working with shapes, if I hold the shift key, I can make it a perfect circle. So I'm going to go ahead and make a circle. I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to put it right on that line. Just going to zoom in here so you can see what we're doing. I'm going to move it over so it's right at the very beginning. Now that I have that shape, another great trick is you can take a shape, if you have the selection tool, hold down the Alt key, and when you do this, you're going to see that another arrow shows up. See that arrow that shows up? That means it's making a duplicate copy. So I'm going to take and I'm going to make another copy, and I'm just going to bring it up. With this new copy, I'm just going to pull on it using the shift key, and I'm pulling away from that line. I'm going to make sure that those are still overlapping. And I'm also going to take and I'm going to grab that initial circle, hold down the Alt key to make a duplicate, and I'm going to bring it across, and I'm going to place it on the other end of the line. I just got to move over a bit more here so you can see everything. So I'm going to bring it across, and I'm going to drop it at the end of the line. Then I'm going to again hold down the Alt key, make another duplicate, and I'm going to put it right there, and I'll make one more. So I'm going to take another one, and I'm going to put this one right there. Okay, so we have all these different shapes, and now we're going to take and we're going to use that same tool. We're going to go back and we're going to use the Shape Builder. But remember, before we use the Shape Builder, you have to select all of your objects that you're going to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick all the different objects that I have here. And we're going to go to the Shape Builder, and I'm going to drag all the way through these objects. So they're now all one object, and voila, look at that. I now have another cloud. I don't know which one I like more. I guess I can figure that out as I go. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. I can reverse the colors. Maybe again, when you're working with this, you want to shake and you want to make your clouds, depending on how deep they are in the picture, you can change how they look. Okay, some of you may have caught what I just did. So you can see here, if I go over to my layers, I just open them up because I wanted to see what happened there. But if I open up my layers, we can see we have, if we remove clouds, we can see that cloud, okay, and we can see the other cloud, it's removed. But we have this white cloud that I created, and I did it by mistake. If I click on this image, you can see it's part of the background. And I'm going, okay, it's on a layer with my background. I don't want to get rid of it. If you double click on it, it will get you to that actual isolated path. So you can see up here we have the background, and then inside the background we have a compound path. Now if I want, I can delete that object, and then I can get back to where I was. So if that ever happens, that's one way of getting away from it. A couple other things I want to point out. This cloud over here, you can see it has a line going around it. So if we go down here, and if you click on the stroke, you can get rid of the stroke color so you don't have a stroke color. And again, maybe you like this cloud, maybe you like it more than this one, maybe we don't even want that one anymore, blah. So we're going to grab this one, click the Alt key, we can use that one again. We can now take it and we can resize it. We can make that one larger, we can make this one smaller. Okay, maybe you want to, if you don't want to make lots of extra clouds, we can take and transform this cloud. So we can go and make a reflection of it. So when you go to make a reflection, we can preview the reflection to see what it looks like. So it looks a little bit different, and we're going to make a copy of it. So now we have a reflection of the existing cloud, so it looks a little bit different, and we can take it and we can move it into the picture as well. Maybe you don't want blue clouds, maybe you want actual white clouds. Okay, and again, you can change the variation of your cloud color when you go to do it. So you can start out with really white clouds, and then you can change, and maybe as they go closer to the background, okay, they're not quite as white. Maybe you change the colors a little bit. Okay, that should give you a lot to work with, and really looking forward to these. I think you'll do a much better job than I did. If I was to work on this some more, I would work a lot more on the color selection. I'd make sure that I get rid of these anchors, which are making this look unnatural, and I'd work really hard on making some really nice silhouettes. Like I said, if you go to the internet and you just type in vector scenes, you're going to see all sorts of vector scenes. You get some really good ideas and some inspiring images that you can work off of, or you can come up with your own. All right, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers.